So welcome back. In this session, in Introduction to InDesign, we're going to have a look at the Pathfinder feature. And for those of you who are conversant with Adobe Illustrator, you may well find some of these features are very similar to that program. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to find this floating menu here, which is located in the Window menu. So Window, down to Object and Layout, and across to Pathfinder. Okay, so this is my poster that I'm putting together, and to start off with, I'm going to show you how some of these basic features work. So I'm going to create a landscape, a cityscape in fact. First of all, I'm going to draw a simple box. And in the previous tutorial, we talked about fill and stroke. So I'm just going to click over here in the default, and then I'm going to use these arrows to swap that so we have a black block. Now, I've mentioned before, but you can hit W on your keyboard to see how that will look without all of the margins and guides showing. I'm now going to hit W again to change my view back. Now I need to actually get this black box to go behind my images. So first of all, I'm going back to my main selection tool, and don't forget a right click will always give you options that are relevant to the process you're doing. If you forget that, then it's up to Object, Arrange and Center Back. There we go. Okay, so I'm actually going to do a cityscape out of this black block, really to show you how the second feature along works, which is the subtract for most objects. So I'm going to get some simple shapes here, which will be my skyscrapers, and then I'm going to click on the selection tool, holding down Shift. I'm going to select the box behind it. So you need those two shapes. If that's not something you're keen on doing, then you can always simply drag your cursor over and that will also select those two items. Then I'm going to simply click the second button along, and that will take that shape out of that background block of colour. So I'm going to repeat this several times. I'm creating a cityscape, so again back to the main selection arrow. I'm going to hold down Shift to select more than one item, and I'm going to click and keep repeating the process. Selecting back one as well, and leave it at that. So I'm going to hit W again to see how that looks, and I'm now going to put some lights on my skyscrapers. Now note how I went back again to the selection tool. That's the one you'll be using mostly, and by clicking and dragging over all of these shapes, I can simply go to the corner of the bounding box and drag them all to the shape that I want, and by going to a corner, this now becomes a rotate tool. Now an extra keyboard shortcut, I'm going to hold down Shift, and that will make it rotate to exactly 45 degrees. I think that looks pretty effective. That's my first set of lights. Now remember, in the previous tutorial I mentioned you can hold down the Alt button and drag to very quickly copy and paste. And I'm going to put this out of alignment on purpose, grab those three shapes, and I'm going to use the alignment features here as discussed in the previous tutorial. Okay, so that has roughly got some shapes into place. So that's just to give you an idea of how the second tool would work. The first tool combines objects, so I could take a couple of shapes such as that, and again I'm going to grab both of those and use those align options again we learnt on a previous tutorial. And then clicking the first Pathfinder icon, which combines those selected objects into one shape. You can see how that works. There is another option there as well. I'm just going to draw 2 circles. Again, holding down Shift will give you beautifully circular ellipses and not lemons. There we go. And this will give you the shape as it shows there in between. The next one will actually create what's called a compound path, and that will knock the hole out of this shape. So if I fill this with black and again grab these 2 shapes and click on this one here, let's just refill that again, you can see how that is actually knocked a hole, almost like a window, out of that shape. I'm just moving it around so you can see what the implications is with that. And the last one will basically subtract the backmost object from the foreground object. So similar to the exercise I was doing around there. Okay, so that is your Pathfinder tools. You find them up in Window and down to Object, Layout and Pathfinder. Or as soon as you start to select more than one object, you will find it comes up on the properties. There we go. Pathfinder, there we go, along here with the same features. Excellent. Well, stay with me for the next session where we will be looking at the pen tool.